Hey there. All your friends and enemies are in your head. Stop looking outside. Your power is within. It is time to tap into your T. T-E-A. Thoughts, emotions, and actions. Would you be ready to rise? Let's go.
Have you ever been in situations where life seems to happen to you and not for you? Have you ever been in situations where the struggle is overwhelming? I am just asking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think most people have hit those points where it feels like life is just pushing them around. Like you are stuck on a ride you did not choose, right? Those moments where everything feels heavy, and no matter how hard you try, it seems like things just keep piling on. It is a real human experience, feeling like you are reacting to life instead of co-creating it. The weight of struggle can feel suffocating, but asking those questions like you just did is a powerful first step. It is like stepping back and saying, wait, is this really how it has to be? Have you been feeling that way lately?
People tend to seek alternative measures when things get rough. For example, some people have gone to self-acclaimed spiritual people for help. The spiritual healers give them some packages and ask for payment in return. Some items in the packages contain things to rub on your skin or body, or things to use and perform some ritual to attract money.
Exactly. And it is a pattern you see a lot when people are desperate for answers or relief. When life feels like it is out of control and people are overwhelmed by hardship, they naturally start looking for a lifeline, something, anything, to ease the struggle. That is when the door opens to these so-called spiritual solutions. The promise of quick fixes or supernatural intervention can be really tempting when you are in survival mode. Someone comes along and says, rub this oil, or do this ritual, and money will come your way. And in that moment, it feels like hope. But the hard truth is, more often than not, these things play on people's vulnerability. Sometimes they might give temporary emotional comfort, but rarely do they create real, lasting change. It is a tricky situation because it is rooted in human nature. When logic and hard work feel like they are failing, people start reaching for the unseen or the mysterious. Have you seen this happen around you, or maybe been approached with something like that before?
Then some people will lean towards the pastors. Some pastors will talk to you about tithes for further prosperity by quoting Malachi 3 verse 10. They will ask you to follow God's commandment and pay your tithes, and all your financial issues will be sorted.
Yes, that is another very common path people take, turning to religious leaders for guidance when things fall apart. And in many cases, people are genuinely seeking spiritual clarity and support. But then, some pastors use that vulnerability to zero in on financial giving, like tithing, as a kind of transactional promise. Malachi 3 verse 10 is the go-to scripture for this. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven. It is a powerful verse, but it is often presented in a way that oversimplifies life's complexities. The idea that paying tithes equals an immediate financial breakthrough can make people feel like they are buying a blessing. Some genuinely believe that obedience to that principle will unlock abundance, and for some, it is a sincere part of their faith. But others get trapped in this cycle of giving beyond their means, expecting instant miracles, while the deeper issues like financial literacy, mindset shifts, or real-world actions get overlooked. It is a tough conversation because faith is real and personal for many people, but it can also be manipulated. Have you noticed how this dynamic creates pressure or even guilt for people struggling financially?
There is also another section of self-acclaimed spiritual people. Some will try to convince you to make offerings to their shrine, offering like foodstuff and animals like chicken, cow, and goat. all in the process of getting money out of you while you seek financial upliftment. What an irony.
Exactly. It is such a heavy irony when you break it down. People go looking for financial solutions, but end up spending more, sometimes their last money, on offerings like chickens, goats, or even cows, believing it will open some door to wealth. It is this emotional and psychological trap where the hope of spiritual intervention feels like the only way out, and these self-acclaimed spiritualists take full advantage of that. They package poverty as something that can be cleansed or sacrificed away at the shrine, when in reality, people are often sinking deeper financially because they are giving away resources they cannot afford to lose. The real irony is that someone who is struggling to feed their family or pay rent is now being convinced to hand over foodstuffs or livestock to secure their blessings, while the so-called healer or priest benefits directly from those sacrifices. It is like a cycle where people's desperation gets monetized. It is heartbreaking because, in the end, what people are really looking for is hope and relief, but it is being sold to them at a steep price. Have you ever seen someone personally caught in that cycle? Or maybe someone who later realized it was just exploitation disguised as spirituality?
But in all these seek for external validation, have you ever tried speaking to your inner being? Or listening to your inner being? Questioning or listening to your internal conversation? In speaking or listening to yourself, you understand your T. TEA is an acronym for thoughts, emotions, and actions. Stop looking outside and go within. There, you will not just catch a glimpse of yourself, but an understanding of your T.
Now, that is the truth right there. That is where the real power lies, going inward, tuning into yourself, and listening to your own inner compass instead of always searching outside for answers. When people pause and tap into their own inner being, they begin to notice patterns in their thoughts, emotions, and actions. TEA. It is like realizing that the story you have been living is not just about what is happening to you, but about how you are thinking, feeling, and moving through life. So many of us are conditioned to seek external validation, pastors, spiritualists, quick fixes, but the real work is internal. When you slow down and ask yourself, what am I thinking about this situation? How is it making me feel? And what actions am I taking because of it? That is when you start shifting from victim mode to self-awareness. Understanding your T is like unlocking a new level of personal responsibility and freedom. It is uncomfortable sometimes because it forces you to confront your own role in the cycle, but it is also liberating. You put it perfectly. Stop looking outside and go within. Because once you start mastering your T, you no longer give all your power away to external forces. Have you found that when you sit with yourself, the answers tend to rise from within instead of outside noise?
Be still and identify what comes to your mind when you remain still. Observe them. Things like addiction, low self-esteem, fear, poverty mindset. Please, can you talk about them individually and how they affect you?
Yes, being still is such a powerful practice, because when you slow everything down and truly observe what bubbles to the surface, that is when the real stuff comes up, the things we usually try to outrun. Let us break it down. 1. Addiction. When you sit still, addiction may rise to the surface, not just in the traditional sense, substances, but in the form of unhealthy attachments, food, social media, toxic relationships, gambling, etc. Addiction often stems from an attempt to numb discomfort or escape internal struggles. But when left unchecked, it traps you in a cycle of dependency, robbing you of energy, clarity, and emotional balance. It hijacks your T. Your thoughts become obsessive, your emotions swing wildly, and your actions turn self-destructive. 2. Low self-esteem. Low self-esteem whispers quietly when you are still. It shows up as that inner critic telling you that you are not good enough, smart enough, or deserving of success. It holds you back from taking chances, stepping into new opportunities, or even just valuing yourself. This leads to thoughts rooted in self-doubt, emotions of insecurity, and actions like playing small or avoiding responsibility. Over time, it becomes a silent anchor keeping you from your full potential. 3. Fear. Fear is loud when you are quiet. Whether it is fear of failure, rejection, or even success, fear clouds your decisions. It amplifies negative thoughts like, "What if I mess this up?" Or, "What if they do not accept me?" Emotionally, fear triggers anxiety and hesitation, keeping you in your comfort zone. And when fear governs your actions, you end up procrastinating, sabotaging your goals, or settling for less than you deserve. 4. Poverty mindset. This one is sneaky. A poverty mindset is rooted in scarcity thinking, believing there is never enough money, opportunities, resources. It shows up when you believe wealth or abundance is out of reach for you. Thoughts like, "I will always struggle," emotions like shame around money, and actions like undercharging for your skills or hoarding resources all stem from this mindset. It blocks creativity, generosity, and the flow of abundance in your life. By being still and observing these things without judgment, you begin to shine light on the shadows that quietly shape your tea. And once you identify them, you are no longer a prisoner to them. You can start shifting your narrative. Have you ever noticed how when you stay busy or distracted, these things stay hidden, but in the quiet, they reveal themselves? They always lurk in the shadows.
The reality is that looking within is not as pleasant as it can be. It is very uncomfortable, and you will detest it. The truth is that a lot of people will find it horrifying to be still and make peace with their shadows.
Exactly, you have hit the core of it. Looking within is not this calm, peaceful moment like people sometimes imagine. It is raw, uncomfortable, and often downright ugly. Sitting still and facing your own shadows, the addiction, the insecurities, the fear, the limiting beliefs. It is like peeling back layers you have worked hard to avoid or numb. Most people do not want to sit with this discomfort because it exposes wounds they have not healed and truths they have been denying. It forces you to confront the part of yourself that you usually try to distract from with noise, busyness, or external validation. It is no wonder people will often prefer to outsource their pain to external saviors like spiritualists or quick-fix solutions. But here is the paradox. Even though it is terrifying at first, that discomfort is where your growth lives. True peace comes after you wrestle with your inner world, not before. It is like standing in front of a mirror that shows you not just the good angles, but the scars, the shame, and the unresolved stories. And honestly, most will do anything to avoid it. That is why people sometimes choose numbing over healing, consumption over reflection, and distraction over introspection. But for the few who stick with the process, who dare to sit still through the horror and discomfort, there is freedom waiting on the other side. Have you personally had a moment where sitting with your inner world felt like facing a storm, but somehow you came out clearer or lighter on the other side?
Truly, most people will want to push it away and lean towards what they think is the easy way out, like wanting someone to do it for them, e.g., wanting their pastor to pray for them, performing horrifying rituals, or wanting to copy other people's tea.
Absolutely, that is the cycle, pushing it away and grabbing for what seems like the easier route. The mind will naturally resist discomfort, so instead of going within, people often try to outsource the inner work. So they say, "Let my pastor pray for me. Let this spiritualist perform a ritual on my behalf. Let me mimic what someone else is doing. Maybe their tea will work for me." But the truth is, no one can carry your tea for you. You cannot borrow someone else's thoughts, emotions, or actions and expect it to unlock your personal breakthrough. Everyone's path is different because your tea is shaped by your own lived experiences, mindset, and choices. It is like wearing someone else's shoes. They might look good, but they would not fit right, and eventually, you will start to feel the blisters. Even when people turn to rituals or prayers hoping for an external solution, without internal alignment, the cycle just repeats itself. The real challenge is self-responsibility. It is tough to accept that nobody else can think, feel, and act for you. Most people want the shortcut, but real transformation demands that you own your inner space, face your discomfort, and craft your own tea that is authentic to who you are. It is heavy, but it is also liberating once you realize no one outside you holds the key. Have you found that once you stop copying or outsourcing, and instead own your personal process, even small shifts inside can start to change everything around you?
Wait a minute. Do you know? The truth is that those people whom you want to copy their tea, they too have spent time going within themselves to understand their own tea. Everyone's tea is unique to them. Go within yourself, and you will have to find your own tea. It is not an easy journey.
Exactly, you just nailed it. The people others often admire or try to copy have already done the work. They have sat in their discomfort, wrestled with their shadows, questioned their inner dialogue, and aligned their thoughts, emotions, and actions in a way that makes sense for them. What people see on the surface, the success, the calm, the confidence, is usually the byproduct of that deep internal journey. But here is the kicker: you cannot download someone else's tea. Their thoughts come from their beliefs, their emotions are shaped by their lived experiences, and their actions are fueled by a vision that is personal to them. Trying to replicate their tea without understanding your own is like planting someone else's seed in your soil and expecting it to grow the same way. And you are right, it is not an easy journey. It is uncomfortable, frustrating, and at times lonely. But it is necessary. Going within forces you to take radical responsibility, to face uncomfortable truths, and to cultivate your own wisdom. It is a process of peeling back layers until you uncover the authentic version of yourself. Once you begin the journey inward and start crafting your own tea, that is when life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. Have you personally had those moments where, even though it was tough, going inward gave you insights that no one else could have handed to you?
If you try asking, or have you tried asking about your tea and how it came about, you will see that it lies deep in your childhood traumas, which have been suppressed for a long time.
Yes, that is where it often begins. The roots of our tea, especially the emotional and mental patterns, can often be traced back to childhood experiences, both big and small. Our early life experiences, how we were nurtured or not, the trauma we faced, whether acknowledged or suppressed, and even the environment we grew up in, all contribute to the way we think, feel, and act as adults. Childhood traumas, whether they were outright painful events or subtle emotional neglect, can create deep imprints on our thoughts and beliefs. A child who grew up in an environment where they are made to feel unworthy might develop a poverty mindset or deep insecurities that persist into adulthood. Someone who faces emotional abuse or neglect might grow up suppressing their feelings, only to find that those emotions now leak out in unhealthy ways: addiction, fear of intimacy, and so on. The tricky part is that these patterns often stay buried for years, hidden beneath the surface, because we do not always have the tools or awareness to process them as kids. As we grow, these suppressed emotions, unmet needs, and unresolved experiences often shape how we interact with the world, even without us consciously realizing it. When you start asking about your tea and trace it back, you are bound to uncover these buried memories, fears, and stories. It is uncomfortable because it is like digging up old wounds, but you cannot heal them until you bring them to the surface. This is where real transformation starts, though. When you can face those childhood shadows, acknowledge them, and process the trauma, that is when your thoughts, emotions, and actions can shift. You begin to rewrite your story and move forward with a clearer understanding of your true self, not the version shaped by past hurts or limiting beliefs. Have you ever felt the pull to revisit your childhood to understand your current thoughts and emotions better, even if it was painful? It is not easy, but it can be so freeing when you uncover those hidden layers.
Also, the majority of your tea is generational trauma that has been passed through the family. The tendency of you passing it on to your offspring is inevitable and can only be avoided by you healing yourself or going within.
Yes, generational trauma is such a powerful force, often silently shaping our tea in ways we do not even realize. These inherited patterns can be passed down through generations, not just through direct experiences, but through the way families communicate, the unspoken rules, the coping mechanisms, and the emotional baggage that gets carried from one generation to the next. For example, if someone grows up in a family where love is conditional or scarce, or where financial struggle, abuse, or neglect were the norm, those experiences shape their thoughts about themselves, their relationships, and the world. The trauma is passed down, sometimes in ways that do not look like the original experience, but still perpetuate the same cycle of unhealthy behaviors and beliefs. It is like an invisible thread connecting generations through their thoughts, emotions, and actions. The patterns can be so deeply ingrained that they feel like the only way to be, like a natural part of who you are, but they are not yours to begin with. It is your ancestors' unresolved pain manifesting in your life. The hardest part is realizing that you are the one who has to break the cycle. It is uncomfortable to confront the fact that some of your fears, insecurities, and behaviors are not just yours. They are inherited. But the beautiful thing is that healing starts with you. Breaking these generational patterns requires deep introspection and inner work. It demands that you face the stories you were given and choose to rewrite them, not just for yourself, but for future generations. When you heal yourself, you heal the lineage because the cycle stops with you. You get to be the one who chooses to stop passing on that trauma, those limiting beliefs, and those unhealthy patterns. You choose to create new thoughts, new emotional responses, and new actions that are not bound by past pain. Have you ever had the realization that some of your struggles or patterns could be tied to generational trauma? It can be overwhelming, but also empowering to know that you can be the catalyst for change in your family's legacy.
Some people will see it as breaking your generational cause. It really does not matter what you call it. Be still and go within. You will see things within yourself like shame, jealousy, greed, lust, laziness, and self-hate. Please take your time and talk about them individually and how they affect you.
Absolutely. Whether you call it breaking the generational curse, healing the family line, or just doing the inner work, The truth is that the process of going within uncovers deeply ingrained patterns, some of which are hard to face. These emotions and tendencies, like shame, jealousy, greed, lust, laziness, and self-hate, are not just random feelings. They are like internal barriers that influence how we think, feel, and act. Let us break them down individually. 1. Shame. Shame is often a product of not feeling enough, of believing you are inherently flawed or unworthy of love and acceptance. It can stem from early childhood experiences or societal conditioning. Shame makes you hide parts of yourself, dim your light, and avoid vulnerability. It sabotages your self-worth, keeping you from fully embracing who you are. When you let shame dictate your you end up acting small, avoiding risks, or seeking validation from external sources instead of building your own confidence. 2. Jealousy. Jealousy arises when we compare ourselves to others and feel threatened by their success, achievements, or qualities. It often comes from insecurity or a feeling of lack. Jealousy distorts your view of the world, making you focus on what others have rather than appreciating your own unique strengths. It fuels negative thoughts and emotions, resentment, bitterness, and frustration. And when jealousy drives your actions, you might engage in unhealthy competition, sabotage, or emotional withdrawal, which keeps you stuck in a cycle of discontent. 3. Greed. Greed is the insatiable desire for more, whether it is money, power, recognition, or material possessions. It often arises from a fear of scarcity or the belief that your value is determined by how much you have. Greed feeds your ego, and no matter how much you accumulate, it never feels like enough. It creates an imbalance in your by distorting your priorities and values. Instead of acting out of abundance and generosity, greed drives you to take more than you need, often at the expense of others, which can lead to emptiness and dissatisfaction in the long run. 4. Lust. Lust, often associated with physical desire, goes deeper than just sexual attraction. It can represent an intense craving for instant gratification, whether that is through relationships, substances, or fleeting pleasures. Lust distorts your sense of self-worth, making you believe that your value lies in external validation or fleeting pleasures. It leads to impulsive actions driven by desire rather than intention, and it can often leave you feeling empty or disconnected afterwards, perpetuating a cycle of longing that never truly satisfies. 5. Laziness. Laziness often stems from fear of failure, fear of success, or even fear of judgment. It is a form of procrastination, a way of avoiding the discomfort of putting in effort or taking risks. Laziness erodes your potential because it keeps you from engaging fully with your life and purpose. When you give in to laziness, your thoughts become filled with excuses, your emotions are filled with guilt, and your actions stagnate. It leads to a cycle of inaction that keeps you stuck in mediocrity instead of striving for growth or success. 6. Self-hate. Self-hate is perhaps the most destructive force of all. It is when you internally criticize, reject, or belittle yourself, believing you are unworthy of love, happiness, or success. Self-hate can stem from childhood wounds, societal pressures, or past trauma. It influences your by filling your mind with negative self-talk, creating feelings of depression or anxiety, and prompting self-destructive actions. When you hate yourself, you are less likely to take care of your needs, pursue your dreams, or treat others with kindness. It perpetuates a cycle of unworthiness that is hard to break unless you choose to confront it and heal. These shadows, shame, jealousy, greed, lust, laziness, and self-hate, are deeply ingrained in many of us, often passed down or shaped by our experiences. But once you face them, you have the power to change them. By recognizing them, you can slowly unravel their grip on your thoughts, emotions, and actions. It is hard, often confronting painful truths, but in doing so, you create space for healing and growth. Going within to deal with these shadows is not easy, but it is the only way to create real change in your life, not just at a surface level, but at the core of who you are. Have you noticed how these shadows can sometimes play out in your life, and how facing them, or avoiding them, shapes your
The more time you spend going within, you will recognize a lot of limiting beliefs that have been holding you back from rising towards your highest potential.
Absolutely. Going within is like peeling back the layers of a long-forgotten story. As you spend more time in that stillness, it becomes clear just how many limiting beliefs have been silently controlling your actions, emotions, and even your thoughts. These beliefs are not always obvious at first. Often, they are so ingrained in us that they feel like truths we just know, but they are not truths at all. They are barriers built from past experiences, societal conditioning, and sometimes even generational trauma. These limiting beliefs manifest in so many ways. I am not good enough. This belief holds you back from taking risks or pursuing things you truly desire. It makes you second-guess your abilities and keep yourself in situations that feel safe, even if they are stifling. I will never be successful. This thought may prevent you from even trying or pursuing new opportunities. It is an internal block that makes you feel like success is for others, not for you. I do not deserve love or happiness. Whether it stems from childhood wounds or past heartbreaks, this belief creates a barrier to experiencing fulfilling relationships or pursuing your own joy. I am destined to fail. This belief traps you in cycles of self-sabotage. You might start something, but deep down, you do not believe it will work, so you quit before you even give it a fair chance. Money is hard to come by. A poverty mindset like this one will constantly limit your ability to manifest abundance because you are constantly in a state of lack rather than abundance. What is powerful is that once you recognize these limiting beliefs, you can start to dismantle them. But first, you have to see them clearly, which means being brave enough to sit with yourself and be honest about the thoughts and feelings that keep you stuck. The more you reflect on your inner world, the more you start to realize how much power these beliefs hold over you and how much energy they drain. But the good news is that once you recognize them, you can choose to rewrite them. You can reprogram those old stories and replace them with more empowering ones. It is a process, no doubt, but by consistently going within, reflecting on where these beliefs stem from, and challenging them, you unlock your potential. You begin to rise above those self-imposed limits and step into a life that is more aligned with your true potential. Have you started noticing any of these limiting beliefs surfacing as you have spent time going within? It is like discovering where the lock is so you can finally unlock the door to your highest self.
In doing this going within, you will discover that we all have our individual T, our divine guidance. Now is the time to go within and make peace with your T. Now is the time to go within and make peace with your inner being.
Exactly. This is the key moment. The time to go within and embrace your unique T. TEA, thoughts, emotions, actions. This is where you stop looking outward for answers and start trusting that the divine guidance you seek has always been within you. Your inner being, that quiet, authentic part of you, holds the wisdom, the strength, and the clarity needed to transform your life. It is easy to forget that we are all born with this divine guidance, often overshadowed by the noise of the world. The expectations, the opinions, the external validation, all of it can drown out your true inner voice. But when you slow down, when you really go within and create the space to listen to yourself, you realize how much power you have. Making peace with your T means accepting all parts of you, the good, the not so good, the shadows, and the light. It is not about perfection or fitting into someone else's mold. It is about understanding your thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment, and then choosing to align them with your highest self. This is where true peace starts to emerge. When you make peace with your T, you stop fighting your inner world. You stop trying to be someone else, and you start accepting that your path is uniquely yours. You acknowledge your flaws without letting them define you. You release the shame, the guilt, and the fear that have held you captive for so long. It is not an overnight journey, but the more you practice going within and making peace with your inner being, the more your life shifts. You begin to act with more intention, think with more clarity, and feel with more authenticity. You step into alignment with who you were always meant to be. Now the question becomes, are you ready to make peace with your T? Are you willing to trust that within you is the wisdom and guidance that will carry you to your highest potential? The moment you do, everything begins to shift, because peace with yourself is the foundation for everything else.
Going within has a simple but profound technique to it. By applying the SBOL framework, which stands for S for stillness, B for breath, O for observe, and L for letting go, which allows you to go within and observe your T, you will not allow those limiting beliefs to control you anymore.
Yes, the SBOL framework is a simple yet profoundly transformative tool for going within and reconnecting with your true self. Each step offers a way to slow down, become present, and consciously observe what is happening inside without judgment. Let us break down how each element helps in observing and aligning with your T. S. Stillness. Stillness is the foundation. In our fast-paced world, it is so easy to get caught up in the noise, whether it is external distractions or the chaos inside our own minds. But in order to truly hear your inner guidance, you need to create a space of stillness. This stillness is not just about sitting quietly. It is about cultivating a moment where you step away from everything and allow yourself to just be. It is in these moments of stillness that you can reconnect with your inner self and begin to hear your true thoughts, emotions, and the guidance of your higher self. B. Breath. Breathing is an incredibly powerful tool that brings you back to the present moment. Deep, mindful breathing helps quiet the mind and anchor you in the now. When you breathe deeply, you release tension, anxiety, and mental clutter. It is also a way to reconnect with your body and energy. Each breath helps you clear out negative emotions and thoughts, creating space for new, more empowering ones to flow in. Through your breath, you can consciously shift your energy and regain control over your thoughts and emotions. It is a tool for grounding and centering yourself. Observe. Once you are still and centered, the next step is to observe. This is where you begin to watch your thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment. Observing allows you to see the patterns and beliefs that have been running your life, whether those are empowering or limiting beliefs. You will notice how your thoughts affect your emotions and how those emotions lead to specific actions. Instead of reacting impulsively, you are creating the space to respond with intention. By observing without judgment, you can start to untangle yourself from old, limiting stories and gain insight into where you might need to heal or shift. L. Letting go. Letting go is the most liberating part of the process. Once you have observed your limiting beliefs, emotions, or patterns, you have the opportunity to release them. This is not about repressing or denying them, but about choosing to let them go. To consciously choose not to hold on to those beliefs, fears, or negative emotions anymore. Letting go frees you from the past and opens the door for transformation. You can replace these old patterns with more empowering thoughts and behaviors that align with your highest potential. The beauty of the SBOL framework is in its simplicity. It does not require complicated techniques or external tools. It is just you being still, breathing, observing, and releasing. As you apply this process regularly, you begin to recognize and release the things that no longer serve you, whether they are limiting beliefs, unhealthy emotional patterns, or actions that do not align with who you truly are. The more you practice, the more you align with your T. Over time, you will feel lighter, more centered, and more empowered. You will no longer let the limiting beliefs or past conditioning control you. Instead, you will be actively crafting a life that reflects your true essence. Have you ever tried applying a technique like SBOL before? Or does this resonate with how you might begin going within more intentionally? Stop looking outside for answers. Your power is within. Be still, breathe, observe, and let go. Master your T. T-E-A. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and watch your life transform. It is time to rise. Let's go.